And welcome back to Menopause Made Easy. Today we are going to talk about burning fat, and as a bonus, okay, we're going to boost some brain power and protect your eyes. Alrighty, so welcome back to Menopause Made Easy with Tanya. And if you're here for the first time, thank you very much for taking the time to listen. And if you've been listening, I appreciate it from my heart. Thank you very much. So this is your go-to space for thriving, not just surviving in midlife and menopause. And if you're feeling stuck, foggy, or a little fluffy in the middle, today's episode is for you. About a month ago, I'd say, I did 2 episodes on the 8 things. It was a 2-part series, 4-part and then 4-part, an 8-part series, or 8 things that we should do before considering fat loss. And I have to say, it's kind of like you pulse in and pulse out and pulse in and pulse out. And it's really important to look at those 8 things that I talked about as part of your fat loss journey. All right. So too much emphasis sometimes can be put on just the food, and it's the other things that are happening in the background. Okay. So today we're diving into how to burn fat. Okay, boost brain power and protect your eyes, all with some very simple strategies that you can do daily that are rooted in how your body actually works. All right, so let's talk about sugar. Oh my gosh, I wrote a book called Cookie Dough in the Dark. I talk about sugar. Let's talk about fat. I used to teach fat chats. I love teaching fat chats, but I do a lot of that in my podcast with you. If you go to the beginning of January, I do a whole series on losing fat and your metabolism. Okay, so those are all very important, and we need to flip the switch so your body starts working with you, not against you. So let's get into it today. All right, so I think it's really important to understand, like, what is fat on your body? What is fat? So you have, I've talked about this before, you have fat you can pinch. This is called subcutaneous fat. Okay, so around your belly, see how much you can grab in your bum. Okay, and then the invisible fat is called visceral fat. All right, and that's the stuff you want to keep low. That is not good. Well, you want to keep your subcutaneous in a range too, but the visceral fat is around the organs. When they get really fat around the organs, it starts to really compress on there, so we don't want that. Okay, so what is fat really? It is your body's energy savings account. When you eat more than your body needs, especially sugar and refined carbohydrates, your body stores the extra as triglycerides, a fancy word, in your fat cells. Okay, so when you eat more than your body needs, it takes that excess, right, and it stores it as what's called triglycerides in your fat cells. And it's stored in places where you see it, like your belly and your hips. And like I talked about, even around your organs and your breasts, like you can just feel the fat on your body. It's not a bad thing. It's basically saving your life. Because if it didn't go into these fat cells, then maybe it could go into your heart or into, well, it does go into your liver, but it could go places that could cause you harm. So instead of like being mean to your fat, make friends with your fat and say, hey, I realized that I've done so many episodes on this because I call it stored energy. Your fat is your stored energy. It's your energy savings account. Okay. So now here's the kicker. When you're not eating, okay, we've talked about, are you a sugar burner or a fat burner? I've done tons of episodes. I've done tons of episodes on fasting. But when you're not eating, think about this. Your body should tap into the stored fat for energy, right? But for a lot of us, especially when we're in menopause, right? Our hormones are shifting, our fat burning switch is not working as it once did or as it should now, and it's a little rusty. But the good news is is that you can flip that switch back on, and we're going to talk about that now. All right. So I have done many, many episodes about this because there are people that I work with that are so low in calories. They just think if they eat less, they will lose weight, but they're not, right? Listen, this is very nuanced. Keepers, there's a blooper for you. Let's put that down here. Woo! Okay. So, where was I? Oh, okay. Let's get back on track. All right, anyway. So that's what fat is. It's a storage unit on your body because you have too much sugar, refined carbohydrates, technically, and it goes into the fat cells. All right, let's leave it at that. Okay. So we're going to talk about sugar. I think this is so important, and the brain and the eyes. Oh, and you know what? I'm actually going to get my phone here because this really sums up this, what I'm going to say to you, and I want to make sure I say it exactly right. Okay, this exactly sums up sugar. Sugar in a baby's brain or your kid's brain or even in an adult's brain is called ADHD. Okay, sugar in an adult's brain is called dementia. Sugar in your eyes is called glaucoma. Sugar in your teeth is called cavities. Sugar in your sleep is called insomnia. Sugar in your blood is called diabetes. And excess sugar in your body is called cancer because cancer loves sugar. Okay, so when you store this sugar, which becomes fat, these triglycerides, right? And so it is stored in your fat cells, but it also can go to your liver, your brain, your eyes, okay? And not fun things can happen. Okay, so let's zoom in on sugar for a second. I knew nothing about blood sugar. I don't know, 20 years ago when I was like knee deep, people. I cannot tell you how much sugar. It was insane how much sugar I ate, okay? Because I did not deal with the emotional component. So go back to that episode. It's more than just emotion. It's hedonistic, it's social, it's habitual, it's all these things. Okay, so chronically high blood sugar, and I think my only saving grace was that I worked out and lifted weights. But okay, so chronically high blood sugar, think too many refined carbohydrates, too often for you. Okay, you are different from me, you're different than your friend. We're talking about you. Okay, it doesn't just mess with your waistline. Like I just said, it affects your brain, your eyes, okay? And your brain is super sensitive to blood sugar fluctuations. And over time, too much sugar can affect memory, focus, and even increase your risk for Alzheimer's. And I've said this before on my podcast. I've been saying this for a long time, all right? But they're calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. And they're actually talking about a type 4 one now, but it's just slipped my mind where it is, what part of the body it is. Okay, but the same goes for your eyes. So high blood sugar can damage the delicate blood vessels in your eyes, increasing your risk of vision issues like diabetic retinopathy and macular degeneration. Okay, so you know what really ticks me off? This really, really ticks me off. And you know what? I shouldn't actually get ticked off because like I said, we're pulling a lot of this together now, but you know, it's not just about brushing your teeth and flossing. It is about feeding your teeth properly. And this is something I learned from Nadine from Living Libations. I bought her book years ago. And then from studying, oh my gosh, the guy's name just escaped me again, about the teeth. It's what you eat is in your blood. And then you have these vessels in your tubules or whatever in your teeth, and it feeds your teeth. So it's not necessarily sugar on your teeth. That's one part of it. But the other part of the story is the sugar in your diet feeding your teeth. Nobody ever told me that. I had to learn on my own. Okay. The other thing that is really interesting when you go to an eye doctor, and I'm going to do a section on eyes alone because I can't tell you again how much I've learned. But when you go to the eye doctor and your eyes are getting worse, I'll do more, but nobody ever talks about your diet there either. Nobody talks about your diet. So I'm just like, it really comes back. You can't escape it. You can't out supplement it. You can't outrun it. You can't out exercise it. Your diet is important. Okay. And if you're like me, it took me a long time to unwind my habitual, hedonistic, social, emotional connection to food. So back to eyes for a second here. If you want a sharp, or your mind and your eyes, if you want a sharp mind and clear vision as you age, managing your sugar is key. It really is key. And I've written 5 hacks to cut your cravings, which really talks about sugar. And I tell you, I do them. Like I do this stuff that I share with you. I don't just tell you guys to do it and then not do it. I do these things. So, after a meal, I go for a walk with my dogs. So I've got little points in there that are really doable, but we're also going to talk about these in here today. Okay, so there's this big fancy word out there. It's called gluconeogenesis. Okay, so maybe some of you remember it from chemistry class, long time ago. You don't have to know the word, but sometimes I like to just say the word because then you just might hear it when you're listening to podcasts or reading. All right, so it's a big word, but it's very simple. So gluconeogenesis is your body's way of making glucose. Glucose is sugar from non-carb sources like protein or fat. Okay, and it literally means making new sugar. So why does this matter? Well, because when you lower your intake of sugar and starches, right, your body has to switch from using it has to switch to using stored fat for fuel. So this is when you become the fat burner. A sugar burner is immediate. And again, if this is, you need a refresher, go listen. I think it's episode number 8, 9, 10, and then there's a second part, like episode number 56. Go listen to becoming a sugar burner versus a fat burner. Again, go to in Spotify, you go find in this show, put sugar burner, fat burner, whatever. The episodes will pop up. And we've talked about this. This is something called metabolic switching. You go from burning fat to burning sugar, keeping this very simple. Okay, but when you are a metabolically fit, which unfortunately 90, they're saying it was 93 a couple years ago. They're saying it's even higher now. 93% of the population is not metabolically fit. Okay, so you can be cutting all your calories, and I don't even know what kind of diet you might be on, but you're not tapping into the stored fat. Okay, and that is what I'm seeing. You're not tapping in, and it's stubborn on women. It's stubborn. Okay, it does not want to let go. So first of all, if I don't get it there in the first place, okay, and secondly, let's try and get it out of those fat cells. All right, so when we think about this metabolic switching and fasting does help, and it doesn't. I'm going to talk about fasting here for a second. I've done many episodes on fasting, and there's still a lot of confusion from when people are talking to me, but okay, let's break it down. So what is metabolic switching? This is what I've been talking about. It's when your body goes from burning sugar to burning fat for fuel. So if you see this metabolic switching, okay, metabolic flexibility versus inflexibility, if you're flexible, you can burn sugar and then you can burn fat. If you are not, okay, then you're just not tapping into your stored energy. Okay. It's like, I gave this whole analogy in one of the podcasts where it's like switching from a gas engine to a hybrid, right? Like it just switched. If you have a hybrid car, you don't have to like get out and do any fancy switches. It just automatically switches. Okay. And then when you're doing this switch without you knowing, right? It's cleaner, it's more efficient, and it's long lasting because we have a lot of fat on us, and this fat provides us with a lot long lasting energy. The thing is how do you tap into that, right? How do you tap into this stored fat? So here's how it works. This is how you can begin. When you fast, even 12 hours. So I always say last bite of food to first bite of food. Okay. So 12 hours. And let me just throw this in here quickly. The more research I read on women and the more I practice with myself, it's better to eat earlier in the day. So front load your macronutrients, your food, right? And stop the nighttime snacking. Okay, so I've done courses on nighttime snacking. I used to be a nighttime snacker. It's not worth snacking anymore. You're not hungry. Go back and listen to those episodes where I talk about the things you need to deal with to stop eating at night. Okay, so before you're focusing on fat loss, you may have to work through some of those things. Okay, so when you're fasting overnight for 12, 14, 13, 15, 16, whatever hours it is, okay, your insulin levels drop. And insulin, okay, lower insulin tells your body, hey, we don't have easy sugar coming in, like you're not just eating sugar, it's in, refined carbs, etc. Okay, let's burn fat instead. But if you eat and then go to bed, it doesn't work the same way because your body, you've eaten, you haven't moved, right? And so it's just stored there. So you're adding more. I mean, it's just so not good to have a practice of nighttime eating and drinking. All right. So when you stop eating, give yourself 3 hours before bedtime, no food, okay? Then your insulin levels start to lower and it tells your body sugar's not coming in, let's burn fat instead. Let's burn fat instead. Okay, that's what your beautiful body says. I'm trying to turn my red light on. There it is. Okay, so fasting also stimulates growth hormone, which helps preserve your muscle and mobilize fat. Okay, so when we're younger, we have a lot of growth hormone. As we get older, it kind of disappears or it lessens unless you're lifting weights and you're doing these other things, which I'll talk about. But when we start to fast, we also start to stimulate this growth hormone and preserve muscle and mobilize fat. Now, it doesn't mean you need to fast for 24 hours. It doesn't mean you need to fast every day. I've done fasting with cycles. So if you have a period, Dr. Mindy Powell talks about this a lot. I've talked about it a lot. I teach it in my Midlife Reboot program. There's different times, different lengths of fasting to work with your body. When you're postmenopausal, you have a little more leeway, but it's really about listening to your body. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing is eat your calories earlier in the day. Stop eating at night. Okay. And then you can have a nice long fast and not store fat while you're sleeping. And you don't need to starve yourself. This is not about starving yourself. Starving yourself is different than fasting. Okay? So a simple overnight fast, like I mentioned, looks like maybe 7 to 7 would be 12 hours. 7 to 8 would be 13 hours. Okay? See what you can start with. But as I always say to everybody, notice what you're doing first, see where your gap is, and then what's one simple shift you can start to do. So maybe you eat 15 minutes earlier, then you eat 30 minutes earlier at night. All right, maybe you tweak your meal according to my 5 hacks. All right, so this is really, like I said, when you combine this with a nutrient-dense meal, it's really going to help you. Okay, so let's talk about some action steps, even though I've been talking about some as we've been chatting. But now we know why, right? Now we know why what's happening is we have this stored fat, your energy account. You are a sugar burner and a fat burner, but you're not getting into your fat burning metabolic powerhouse on your body. All right, so let's talk about how to make fat loss and as an addition, as a bonus, to get that brain health easier in menopause and maybe even clear up your eyes, which I have cleared up my eyes. Again, I'm going to talk about that in another episode. Okay, so step number 1, start with a 12-hour fast. See if you can do a 12-hour fast consistently. Maybe that's just what you work on. Maybe right now you notice you're stopping eating at 8, 9, 10 at night, and then you go to bed, which is what a lot of people do. They get up at 6, and maybe they don't eat. But again, I want you to shift your fast to start earlier, all right? And then once you're comfortable with that, maybe there's a couple of days a week you do 14 to 16 hours and just play. I've just spent I've been fasting 10 years, but in the last like 3 years, I got really super intentional, and wow, did I learn a lot about myself. Anyway, there you go. Okay, step number 2 is break your fast with protein and healthy fats. So when you get up, I like to have a latte because I don't necessarily like to eat first thing in the morning, but I'm still getting calories and fat and protein, right? And so I'm aiming for like 30 grams of protein. But some days I'll have some scrambled eggs or some boiled eggs with some avocado, some Greek yogurt with some chia seeds, right? So just look, there's lots of apps out there. This is what we're doing in my midlife reboot. I'm taping this in April, but at the change of every season, we really spend time to really just get back and tweak again. And every year we do this, you just do another layer, another layer. It's fascinating. You cannot do this all at once. Okay, so when you start your day with healthy protein and fat, you keep your blood sugar levels steady, which supports the gluconeogenesis in a good way. Okay, so we want to keep that blood sugar steady. And I still talk to many, many women that are having toast and juice for breakfast, or cereal and juice for breakfast, or cereal. No. Okay, add an egg to that. All right, move your body. No surprise. All right, so a brisk walk after a meal, okay, helps to burn the immediate sugar you've just eaten, okay, that immediate glucose, and improve your insulin sensitivity, which gets a little wonky when you're going through this menopause adventure, okay? And at the same time, this beautiful walk boosts your mood and your brain function. Bonus, okay? Okay, this is one I did eons ago with my kids. We used to have juice and juice boxes, and I got rid of all. It was either juice or dessert, okay? Because they're basically, well, they are the same thing. They're just, but anyway, let's get back to liquid sugar. Just ditch the liquid sugar. So again, notice your sodas, your juices, your sugary lattes, all right? These spike your blood sugar and get stored as fat fast, very quickly. There's no fiber, there's no fat protein, okay? So these spike your blood sugar very quickly and get stored as fat very quickly, okay? So swap them out for water, tea, coffee, add some cinnamon, some citrus. In my fat latte, I've talked about my fat latte for years. You can add some collagen, some MCT, right? So just get those sugars out. And I you know, that to me was such an easy one, but maybe that's not easy for you. But start to have a look at it. Maybe just make it less. Make sure you have it with an egg. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Get enough sleep. We have to get enough sleep. Again, we're talking about the same things over and over again. These are the foundational things to do. Okay, so a lack of sleep increases hunger hormones and decreases your ability to manage sugar. When you are hungry, you will crave more sugar, hands down. All right, so you want to aim for good quality sleep. Number 6, you want to eat foods that support eye and brain health, okay, which means they're going to be low sugar. So we're going to focus on some leafy greens, omega-3 foods like salmon, flax seeds, berries, nuts, okay? These are all rich in antioxidants, and they help protect your brain and your eyes, okay? and they also keep your blood sugar levels stable. So load up on those greens. And as I've said, this is about consistency, not perfection. This is about progress, not perfection. This is not about dieting. This is not a fad. Okay, this is not the next greatest weight loss thing. These are foundational steps to help you become a metabolic switcher, to be able to have you burn fat on your body. Okay, so this is not about dieting. This is really about giving your body what it needs to thrive. And if you go off track, don't panic. Okay, your next meal is 2 to 3 hours away. So just get right back on track. Okay, so as we go through this perimenopausal, menopausal adventure, it doesn't mean weight gain. It doesn't necessarily have to mean brain fog or declining health. Okay, you can minimize all of those. And I know because I have done it and my clients have done it. All right, so your body is incredibly wise and it wants you to be healthy, and it is capable of healing, adapting, and even thriving with the right tools. I know because I look at my old self compared to my new self over the years, how I've transformed myself. And oh my gosh, I cannot believe the difference. If I had stayed where I was, oh, I know I would probably be 20 pounds overweight. I would probably have be pre-diabetic. Okay, so you can do these things. I did them and I was a total sugar addict. I will say I was an addict. It was insane. Okay. So today we covered how your body burns fat, how sugar impacts your brain and eyes, and how to activate metabolic switching to feel more energized and clear-headed. So if this episode was helpful for you, please share it with a friend. There are lots of women who need to hear this information. And thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting and following me. And please subscribe so you never miss an episode. And I'd also love to hear from you. What is the one step you are going to do this week out of the 7 that I shared? What is one step that you are going to do just to get you the next level closer to becoming a fat burning machine? All right, my beautiful ladies, until next time, stay strong, stay kind, feed your vibrant, energetic body, and you've got this, and I've got your back. So if you need some help reach out to me. I'm here to help you. Okay, everybody, bye.